Is this the future of Subtrees? Let's talk a little bit about it. Hello guys, once again it's Matt. Thank you all the members and patrons. Make sure to subscribe. And yeah guys, with the latest leaks in the upcoming patch, apparently having more Swiss aircraft coming to them, maybe, to the Germans of course. Is this going to be the future of Subtrees? What do I mean about that? Well guys, if you take a closer look, there are two types of technically Subtrees in the game. There are the normal types, like for example the Hungarians in the Italian tech tree that have a whole line for them so that they can actually be alone there and have whatever they want. You know, it will be a fully fledged line of just vehicles from that nation, or most vehicles being from that nation that is a subtree, or even for two nations, which I think is going to happen eventually with the Romanians, for example, for the Italians, right? But there are the second type, which is basically the Indians for the British, that they have vehicles. They're gonna have vehicles here and there, little one here, little one there, nothing too crazy. Premium here, an event vehicle there, in the middle of the tech tree, while they already have the South Africans as well, right? So, and even other vehicles, like for example the Desert Warrior, you know, being from other like there are many examples. The Canadians basically having a multitude of nations, or maybe just one that is spread around the tech tree without having a subtree per se, right? A subtree line, if you will. And I think this is going to be the future eventually. And the reason might confuse you. The thing is that if you notice, there is only 5 lines of vehicles in each tech tree, plus the premium and event one. And apparently this is a limitation of the game. I'm pretty sure they can fix that and in the future have more lines, but apparently there are community managers and developers that are saying that it is pretty limited to the 5 tech tree line vehicle tech tree, which is pretty funny if you ask me, but it's a weird reason. I know, it's kind of weird. But if that is a real limitation, you will notice how there are nations that should get subtrees, that deserve a subtree, that won't have a place for the subtree. And most nations already have one. For example, the Italians have the Hungarian subtree, and they already have the 5, lines. So if the Romanians, for example, come to the Italians, it means that they will be needed to be spread around in those lines that are already there. The French, for example, if they receive any other nation, which I doubt for now, but will have to be in the middle there as well. And so on and so on. The British, for example, is a big one. If they actually add more aircraft and tanks for the Indian Air Force, Indian Army and stuff, we will need to have them spread around in the middle of the tech tree, just like they kind of are right now. I mean, they're more in the event tab, but in premiums and stuff, but still, you know what I mean, right? And the Swiss is going to be like this. If the Swiss are added, they're gonna need to be added in the middle of the tech tree of the Germans. Where would they actually go? Well, that's the thing. We don't know, because depends on the vehicles that they want to add. Because it will technically be a subtree, but technically it's not a subtree per se, right? It is just 3-4 vehicles that are added because the Swiss Air Force never used 50 aircraft throughout their history, right? It's 100 aircraft, that can be added. So it's a little bit different than other subtrees and other nations because of that. And it combines perfectly with the German tech tree. That's why I think the Swiss are the perfect addition for the German tech tree right now, especially. Because if you think about it, if they had the Polish tech tree, it would need to be mixed with the tech trees that we have already right now. And it would be kind of confusing. And it wouldn't make a lot of sense. You would have a lot of repeated vehicles in the Cold War because of the East Germany Air Force and stuff and Army. So at the end of the day, the Swiss could actually bring a lot of things and pinpoint things, things that are in a location where there is a gap in BR, where there is a gap in utility of a vehicle or anything like that that are really, really needed in the German tech tree. For example, the F5. We have the MiG-21, we have the MiG-23, we have the Su-22s, we have the F-104 and the F-4. Nothing that really compares itself to the F-5. Of course, it could be even in the same BR as the F-5, like the F-104, for example, is, and the F-4F are in 11.0. But they are really, really different aircraft from the F-5, right? The MiG-21 is a different BR, different weapon systems, and a different overall feeling of the aircraft. So the F-5 brings something to the table there, a nimble aircraft that is very light, and it will be filling a gap. The F-18 would be filling a very, very large gap that the Germans don't have any top-tier aircraft that can be added right now without adding the Eurofighter, and we are not ready for the Eurofighter. So it's a nation, and probably the only nation that really suffers from not having a proper top-tier aircraft that fires Fox 3s, right? So you can see that it can actually bring stuff in a pinpoint location to a gap that the country needs without having to research a whole bunch of other aircraft that are copy-paste, etc., right? It can actually bring something that the actual tech tree needs really bad, and fix the problems together with having that nation added at the same time. And the Swiss are perfect for that, and I think the future of War Thunder will be very much like this. Of course, they will always add more nations to the game, full-fledged nations and stuff, but they are a little bit more rare. They take a lot more time and, of course, a lot more grind for the player. So Subtrees might be the escape for adding a lot of these aircraft that we wouldn't have in certain tech trees and stuff. But there are nations that cannot have a full-fledged subtree, like I was saying. So the Swiss, the Indian subtree, if you want to call it that, are the perfect option for these countries. Even for the US, even for the Soviet Union in the far future, if they really want to add stuff like this, we can add like smaller nations from post-war, for example, that can actually be added, post-Cold War, I mean, that can actually be added there with 2 or 3 vehicles each to actually bring something that otherwise you wouldn't be ever added to the game, right? Many of the satellite countries, around these countries or allies of these countries, so it would be very, very cool. And honestly, as I said, I really think that this is the future of the subtrees, of the additions of aircraft and tanks in the game. Let me know in the comments what you think. Are you excited about the Swiss Air Force subtree, quote unquote, that they are leaking? And I see you guys on the next one. Bye guys, subscribe, see ya.